This is a Rogue Media Network podcast. This is Central Texas Life with Ann Harder.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Central Texas Life, and it's fun to have Rob Curnock back on the podcast. It's been 3 years, maybe longer.
Yeah, you've been in a slump for 3 years if you haven't had me on.
I haven't had you back, but we're going to talk about a brand new book that you have out, is An Eye for a Tooth, which is totally different than Dead Man Running, which was more of kind of a memoir of your political race.
Yeah, the one is a political
that we originally...
book.
Is what we talked about. So we're going to talk about Dead Man Running after we talk about your new book. Okay, we're going to kind of get a refresher on what's going on.
Okay.
With your writing. Of course, Rob Curnock owns Double Tape. If you're in Waco and been down Franklin Avenue, you see his business. Been there how long?
It's a landmark.
Well, of course it is. Yeah.
Yeah, we've been in business since actually I started it in a back room of my home in 1985 while I was working for KWTX.
Right. And so you actually dubbed tapes. I mean,
that's what we started off doing. The name Double Tape.
Right, but you do all kinds of
Yeah, we haven't dubbed tapes in 20 years because there's no longer any tapes to dub.
It's all digital.
Yeah, it's all gone. So now
That's
we
true.
basically take people's old photos, videos, films, convert them over to digital, flash drive, DVD. 95% of our customers go to flash drive, but that's the main thing we do with the public.
Yeah,
we still do some production and things like that. We used to do a lot of production in the area.
Well, and keeps you busy. I mean, you do, as you have for many, many years, you videotape depositions.
Right.
And, you have kind of, and it's an interesting business, but a sidelight of what you do is to be an author, which is really great. And first, tell them about your website, because you have, let's see, it is called...
robcurnock.com.
That's hard. But
Tricky.
But no, it has something to do with writing or something.
Yeah, it's called...
Oh, Curnock Book Works.
Yeah,
there we go. Yeah.
I put that together because after the first book came out, and it did pretty well. It's continuing to sell, and there's reasons for that. Then I came out with the second book, and then I was trying to get a traditional deal, because the first two have been partnership deals. Mm-hmm. But I was also trying to get an agent. And so to do that, they want you to have a website. And so I threw together a little rudimentary
Oh, it looks good.
website.
I mean, that's good.
And, it just kind of shows what I've done, what's coming, because there's another book I'm really going to push to get an agent for, but it's a totally different book from these two.
Okay, so all right, so let's talk about your latest book, which is An Eye for a Tooth. It's a novel.
Correct.
And things that have been said about this book, in fact, local retired sheriff
Larry Lynch
says, An Eye for a Tooth is well written with a good storyline and intriguing characters with many twists, turns, and a surprise ending. It is unlike any other murder mystery I've ever seen. I highly recommend it. And, and he's a man of few words.
He is.
And this is high praise, but so many people have described An Eye for a Tooth as being original, that it's
Totally.
different than anything you've read before.
Right.
So let's talk a little bit about the storyline. I mean, it's as you say, it's a crime novel.
It's a murder mystery.
Murder mystery.
Or is it?
Dun, dun, dun.
Exactly. That's that.
But it's a lot of fun. It is a page turner. I read it really in kind of 2 sessions on plane flights.
Right.
So I mean, and people say it truly is a page turner. I mean, you don't want to put it down because the action is so well written, and it's a little bit bloody. I mean, it's a crime scene.
Yeah, but it's sanitized. I could have made it a lot darker. It's drawn from actual events, and my initial premise for the book.
So where did this happen? These actual events
on the internet. And some people might recognize some things if once they've read the book. Mm-hmm. And I can't get into much more detail because like Larry Lynch came in and I was getting him, he wanted me to autograph one of the copies. And I asked him, I said, Larry, when did you figure out kind of what was going on? And he said, Rob, I'm embarrassed to say I've been in law enforcement my entire career. And it wasn't until deep into the book that I figured it out, and I was wrong.
So, yeah, because, I mean, you're not really sure. You're kind of cheering for the good guys and sometimes for the bad guys.
That's right.
So it really is kind of some of these moral gray areas.
But it's not morally ambiguous.
No, it's not.
It is.
So let's talk a little bit about that, because, I mean, you're very clear that you come from...
my hero comes from this perspective.
A perspective of being a Christian.
A born-again Christian.
Born-again Christian, conservative.
Politically conservative, who's trying to solve this mysterious crime or crimes that starts, and it starts off in Brownwood. I can give that much away.
Okay, so, right, it is set in Texas.
It's set in Central Texas.
And you will recognize some of the locations that are mentioned.
Right. And he's been drawn into this mysterious crime. So he and his partner are trying to solve this crime that appears to be a crime wave that's getting bigger, and the crimes are getting more intense and worse. And so he and his partner are trying to solve this crime and catch the bad guys while they're dealing with the new woke culture of the FBI. And we had an FBI agent who was our technical advisor on this. Or I had an FBI agent, which was kind of an interesting story in itself. I could tell you, but you want me to tell you?
Sure.
It was pretty cool. My business converts people's old photos, videos, films, and I was about halfway into this book, and I had made the hero an FBI agent, and I was saying to my wife and others, I've got to make sure everything is technically correct, so I need to talk to an FBI agent. And one day I was sitting in my office, and I heard my manager in the back go, "I just watched an FBI graduation." What? I jumped up, ran in the back, and go, "What?" And it turns out somebody had brought in a tape of their FBI graduation video.
Wow.
And so I called the guy, and I said, "John, here's what I'm doing. It's kind of weird. I'm writing a book, and I need to get some technical, expertise on all these things with an FBI agent. And could I come talk to you?" And he was really fun. He said, "Rob, since you're talking about my two favorite subjects, which is me and the FBI, I would be glad to do it."
I'll do it.
So we had several interviews, and everything was, he really was invaluable in it. I'm not saying he endorses everything, but he made sure everything is technically and accurate.
So like dealing with superiors and that kind of, that sort of aspect.
And how it's organized and what kind of, the technical aspects.
Right, and so you talk about, the woke culture, and I think...
And it is a problem.
There are some concerns with law enforcement, because I think the perception has always been that it's pragmatic, it's methodical, it's apolitical.
Supposedly.
You would think.
Supposedly.
But that's not what we're seeing
now,
and so that's kind of
one of the
impetus
from
for
a local,
for the book.
Yeah, one of the reviews from a local attorney, he was saying it's like were you a prophet, because you're pulling stuff that's in the book is straight out of headlines in today's news, and I mean it's just the society that we're in today, and so
everything is so politicized.
Yeah,
and unfortunately, some of these agencies that we thought were above all that are not.
No.
Seemingly.
No. And my contention has been all along, which is why I kind of got into writing, is people talk all the time about how, we're losing the culture war. If you're a conservative Christian, we're losing the culture war. And I'm saying, no, we're not losing the culture war. We've already lost the culture war. And part of that is because we don't have stories, media, entertainment for young people that have stories from our perspective.
Right.
And so when you read An Eye for a Tooth, that's one of the things that I heard feedback from in reviews and such, was that they didn't expect the bad guy to be the type of bad guy that he was, because they're always used to seeing the bad guys as from the other side of things. It's always the same.
The white conservative.
So yeah, exactly. So
really, I'm just going to say it.
This is where it's coming from, and that's what's refreshing, and that's why so many people, if it hits you, it really hits you. I mean, if you get what's going on in there, plus the topic, which you don't know about, and I'm not going to tell you about it here. You have to get the book.
Well, can we say though it has to do with animals?
No, you can't say that. There is.
It looks like an animal on the cover.
There is. Yes, if you are a pet lover, an animal lover,
Right.
you will like this book. That's all
Right.
I can say. You will love this book. Again, it just comes at things from a different perspective. Everything is not as it seems, and
Well, and that's right, and that's the mark of a good writer. Your dialogue is so well written, though. I really enjoyed.
Thank you.
Reading that. I did kind of get a little tickled, knowing that you're a strong believer, and personally, don't use profanity.
No.
Just don't.
not unless I'm around Anne. Then I have to, because she's like a sailor.
The air turns blue. No.
I'm kidding.
That is not true. And
It's not
that's
true.
not
It's
true.
not
And
true.
that's why I got kind of tickled because, these are rough, tough law enforcement type, and you're not expecting to read. They're going, gosh darn it,
Yeah.
It's not a surprise that there would be profanity.
We're dealing with a lot of bad guys.
Bad guys
Yeah.
that are going to use profanity. I mean, and anywhere it's just it's everywhere.
Yes.
It's everywhere. Even the one verboten word forever in broadcast, except for the dreaded F-bomb.
You and I have talked about that. I am so fed up with hearing the F-bombs.
I hate it. I hate seeing it.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
But you really weren't wanting to put. Well, I mean, you weren't wanting necessarily to write profanity in it.
No.
But you there is some.
But it's in it for a reason.
Okay, it's in it for a reason, but it's sanitized to the point where
Yeah.
you leave the middle letters
My
out.
editor wanted me to print them out.
Go ahead and print it out.
She demanded
but I mean,
that.
your brain reads it. You get the word. I mean,
I said,
but
I'm not doing
I
it.
did kind of
I'm not-
laugh. I'd
I'm
kind
not
of
putting it in
giggle a
there.
little bit at that, but
I know you wanted the full bad words in there, but I'm not doing it, Ann. I'm sorry.
I did not. But anyway,
I am kidding. This is all a joke. No, not at all of a joke, but that
No.
part is a joke.
no, but so you were encouraged. Oh, write the bad words
Well,
out.
again, it's part of the story. It really
Right.
is. It's a part of the
And
story.
that you would expect. So it's not
so I have to have it in there.
unexpected.
And the violence, it's a murder mystery, so there's going to be some violence in it.
Okay.
And I did, like I said, the original concept, it would have been a lot worse. That was my original concept. I sanitized a lot of it.
So what kind of was this original, inspiration?
The original inspiration for this was, first of all, the concept that we have to try and start influencing, especially our kids, with entertainment and our values, not the values of the
this
Hollywood
was strictly
left.
written as a fun murder mystery thing,
Yeah, this isn't.
I mean,
this,
you weren't trying to make a political statement with this necessarily.
I wanted people to read a good, and again, good is subjective,
Right,
but I wanted
right.
people to read a good, entertaining story that came from that conservative Christian side of the political scale.
Which
and
is
right now,
unique. I mean, that's a unique thing.
exactly, because almost all the time, any murder mystery you read now, at best, your lead law enforcement officer is apolitical or to the left,
Yeah.
and they certainly don't go to church. They certainly don't have religious leanings.
Right.
You don't get any of that. You do get that in this. That's the starting premise, and there's a bunch of other stuff that comes in which I can't get into because
Right.
then I give it away.
Right.
But yeah, and so
excellent.
that's the point of this was that. And some people may go, well, but it's got the bad words in it. Well, yeah, but there's a reason,
Yeah.
and it'll become
Well, and
evident.
your hero refrains from
That's the whole point.
profanity.
Yeah, that's the whole
That
point.
it can be done. I think there are some people who now it's become so universal that they don't think it's possible to live a life without spewing
And that's one of the
profanity.
chapters in that book.
Yeah, but you can.
There is
It is possible.
there is a story, and there is a chapter in there where it deals with trying to not.
Yeah,
curse.
right. I remember that. Okay, so An Eye for a Tooth, available Barnes & Noble, available.
Fabled
Am-
is carrying
Amazon.
it. Barnes & Noble's carrying it on the shelves. It's
Sales going very well.
That's what I'm not sure, but Barnes & Noble contacted me last week and said they're going to start carrying it on the shelves because the sales are so
Yeah,
good.
good.
But it's available online at Walmart, Barnes & Noble, Amazon, all the major booksellers.
Okay, fun summer read. It's under the fiction thrillers crime.
That's right.
An Eye for a Tooth. Okay, let's go back in history. Dead Man Running. Okay,
that would be me.
this was a tale about your run for Congress.
That's right.
And so this was written some years ago.
About 3 or 4 years ago it was released. Actually, I finished it a little bit before that, but I didn't release it for a while because I knew there might be some blowback from some areas.
Has that manifested?
Well, one, I kind of wondered what the focus of that book, and the book is about when I ran for Congress against the incumbent congressman at the time, whose name was Chet Edwards. Mm-hmm. And it basically, no one gave me a chance. No one thought I could win. No one would help us. We couldn't raise money. I even went to Washington and asked the National Party to get involved, and they just, they felt like there was no chance. And so my point was, well, at least stop hurting us, because people would be considering giving money to our campaign, and they were literally being told by the National Party and the state party, don't waste your money. He can't win. So we've got
I had just given up on.
Well, yeah, and that's like one of the early chapters, and it talks about how what my reception was when I got down to Austin to file against this unbeatable congressman. Mm-hmm. And so, but people were being told, don't waste your money. You can give money to other races that will do better. And so that's what I went up to Washington, and I'm begging them. I said, just at least stop hurting us. Yeah. They patted me on the head and say, well, we'll keep an eye on it. But all their numbers and all their stats, and I get it. They're professionals.
They're trying to help.
There was no way that Chet could lose. Mm-hmm. And so the book goes through, it's literally like a political Rocky. Yeah. It's written just in that form. It's like a story. Yeah. And it's gotten great reviews. Again, the best review is that people can't stop turning the pages.
Yeah, again, absolutely. Great writer. You're doing well in that. I think probably the most interesting aspect of the story, can you tell it? About Chet.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So, he's told me yes.
So Chet Edwards, who was your opponent that you were running against, is one of your clients, one of your customers.
And we talk about that in the book, that he was a client.
So how did he hear about it to want to read it?
Well, he evidently came in the shop several weeks ago to get some other work done, and we've kept a few copies. Mm-hmm. They're at under the counter, under the glass.
Double type.
Yeah, because people will come in, and I try to get them to go to Amazon or Barnes & Noble or whatever, because then they can leave reviews that people will read. Whereas if they buy it from me, I'll put it on my little website, but, who's going to see that? So anyway, we keep a few copies under the counter, and I wasn't there. And so I came back, and my manager goes, you're not going to believe who I just sold a copy of your book to. And I'm like, I don't know. She goes, Chet Edwards. And I said, what?
What?
She goes, he was looking at the books and under the counter while she was doing something else. And she came back out, and he goes, did Rob write a book?
So he didn't even know?
He didn't even know. And see, I wondered I wondered if he knew. I didn't, but there's nothing horrible in it about him.
No. It's just your experience and your take on the experience.
Yeah, and I wrote it as catharsis because I was so beat up after that race.
Yeah, it was tough.
And it took me 3 years to write. But anyway, so he goes, he wrote a book. She goes, yeah. He goes, what's it about? She goes, his race against you.
You kind of figure in it.
He goes, well, I guess I better buy one. So he bought a copy. And so I came back, and she, and I'm like, oh, I wonder what he was thinking. And we were kind of joking, oh, he's going to sue me, and which he can't. There's nothing in it that's...
No.
It's all public figures and all that. So we kind of were joking about that. So the next day I come in, I was running errands, and I come back in, and my manager was talking to a customer, and she goes, oh, Rob just walked in. So I go around the corner, and there's Chet.
Yeah.
Right there. He goes, Rob, I bought your book. And I hadn't seen him since the end of this book. Mm-hmm. So he said, and I was defensive. I'm like, well, now you understand. It's coming from my perspective. So, I wrote it. He goes, no, I want you to know you kept me up till 2 a.m. last night reading this. He goes, I started looking through it, and I couldn't stop reading. I couldn't put it down.
Right.
And he goes, and I interrupted him. I said, well, does that mean you'll give me a good review? And he goes, absolutely.
Really?
Yeah. And so
that's great.
And he goes, unless it would hurt you. And I said, no, I'd love for,
Oh, I think it's awesome.
So he, we ended up talking for over an hour. I mean, because he talked about, I guess he teaches a political science course at Baylor. And one of the things he said he's been trying to get across to his kids is that politics does not have to be a blood sport, that we can, and he said, you and I kept our race civil. And so then we just talked about different things that were in the race and in the book. And it was kind of fun to hear him trying to get information from me, just as far as my perspective on things.
And he wanted his campaign manager to read it.
So before he left, he ended up buying 2 more copies, one for, I guess, somebody at the political science department and his former campaign manager. And we've since talked. I mean, he's assuming he still likes it. Who knows? He may have read through the whole thing and he changed his mind. Well, Rob who? I don't know this guy. But he shouldn't. I mean, there's really nothing in it that...
Well, it was a pivotal time in Central Texas politics.
That's correct.
In that
we are the ones that, this started the ball rolling to knock him out.
Flip that seat,
Yeah, and again, he's not a bad guy, and that's the point of it. I mean, we got along fine personally, and it just we're on opposite sides. If it was a political Rocky, for those that remember the movie Rocky, he's Apollo Creed.
Yeah, I'm hearing the theme music right now.
Yeah. And so I'm trying to knock him out and, get him out. And we disagree totally on politics, so we, that's what it was. So anyway, it just lets people know what happens in a campaign. And it's
rough.
Continuing. Oh, yeah.
It's very rough. So it's almost a cautionary tale.
Well,
if somebody's interested in running for public office.
they should, that's a great reference book.
Should.
Yeah, to read, because it'll tell you kind of what you might go through.
Yeah.
Because it's what we went through, but it also talks about the good things too. It's not just all negative. I mean, you meet incredible people.
Oh yeah,
incredible people.
Yeah, I'm sure you make memories that last a lifetime.
Yeah, and they're all, and it's in that book. It just talks about that. So again, I'd highly recommend it. But.
Yeah, very good. Dead Man Running, and this is the last copy you have.
My
sold
copy
out. I lent to my aunt, so she's got. I would have brought my copy, but she's got it.
We're probably going to I'm going to probably have to buy some because I'm supposed to be doing a book signing. Oh, I didn't tell you about that, or did I?
Oh, you hadn't gotten it set.
Yes, we're in August is what I talked with the manager at Barnes & Noble, and they would like to do a book signing probably for both books in August.
Oh, I would think,
August sometime, because they're now carrying it because it's sold well enough that
That's great.
Are carrying it on the shelves.
Well, and I love talking to local authors. I mean, I do. Yeah. And there are a lot of people who are just creative and of course, in your case, it just totally out of whole cloth came up with an eye for a tooth. Of course, this was your life. So there's a third book?
There is a third book. It's called Scaredy Dog.
Scaredy Dog.
If you go to my website, you'll see more about that. It's finished. It's ready to go, but I'm trying to maybe I think I'd like to get an agent for that one because it's gotten such strong reviews. And it's just a fun, just an old-fashioned, fun ghost story.
Fun.
But it's told through the eyes of my hero dog.
Okay.
And it changes point of view, and it's
so the dog is the character.
Yeah, basically the premise is he gets separated from his police. He's a police dog. And he gets separated from his master through an extreme circumstance, and then he's basically just trying to survive. And so he's on the run trying to survive, and he winds up getting captured and put into a small town animal shelter where he's going to be euthanized because they're shutting the shelter down.
Oh no!
And there's one other dog in there, and so that's when the point of view of the book changes, and suddenly you now can see that he understands humans. Humans don't understand him because that's just barking to humans, but he understands them, and he can talk to. And so there's one other dog in the animal shelter, and he has overheard them saying that both of them will be euthanized the next day.
Oh.
And so he is trying to warn this other dog that they're going to, this is going to happen, and she won't listen. He ends up escaping, then decides whether or not to go back and rescue her. So he finally
So it's a love story, too.
Well, he finally gives in and decides to go back and rescue the liberal poodle.
Oh, you might know.
He's a conservative police dog. And so the two of them,
I love it.
and so they wind up, he does rescue her, they wind up on the run, and then they get to a big deserted mansion in the middle of the woods that, you know, and so they seek shelter there, and it turns out it's haunted.
Right. Oh.
And that's
Oh, my
and there's
goodness.
more to it than that.
So you may have a franchise on your hand with
It's
this.
the first book of a trilogy,
I was gonna
actually.
say,
I've already
absolutely.
started deep into the second book, but
Oh, my.
I've been kind of focused on Dead Man Running and An Eye for a Tooth,
Right,
getting them
right.
going, because they seem to be picking up steam a little bit.
But yeah, getting an agent would be a big help. That
Yeah,
would be
very
good.
much, but
So
it's
that's-
really hard to get agents. I mean, because agents that used to be getting, this is what I've spoken to book clubs and authors clubs and such. One of the things, an agents that used to get maybe 10 manuscripts, you know, every month, they're now getting 100 a week.
Oh,
Because everybody's writing books.
Really?
And so it's really tough
oh,
to get agents.
interesting.
Yeah, it's really tough to get agents. And that's why it's so...
You have to really stand out, you know.
Yeah, and
in the pack,
and
so
for
to speak.
someone, most of the agents, and now I'm really going to get into inside baseball, and I won't dwell too long on it, but a lot of them are mostly New York centric.
Ah.
So they have a certain point of view
Yeah,
on
here we
life, if
go.
you know what I'm saying.
I know.
And so it's hard. For instance, with Scaredy Dog, the police dog, for some of these people, right there,
I don't like.
that's a turnoff.
Right.
And so that's
Oh, my gosh.
So that's where it's all at now. And so
Yeah.
but you don't have to go the agent route. You don't have to go the traditional route.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so I'm doing what I'm doing right now, and in fact, I'm probably going to be doing some advertising with An Eye for a Tooth here
Yeah.
shortly.
Good.
Yeah,
Good.
yeah. So
Good. Well, it's excellent. I highly recommend both Dead Man Running and An Eye for a Tooth. And again, you can go to Curnock Bookworks website.
it's at robcurnock.com.
Curnock.
That's correct. Yes.
And yeah,
It'll be a journey to a website that you will never regret.
it's great. Thank you, Rob. You're so much fun, and I appreciate your talent and your creativity and
thank you.
just your dedication and passion for everything. So
Well, thank you.
appreciate
We've
it.
got to win our culture back,
Yeah, we do. I would agree with you.
hanging by a thread.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for being with us. We'll see you again next time on Central Texas Life. Bye-bye.
Central Texas Life with Ann Harder is part of the Rogue Media family. Be sure to check out our other shows at roguemedianetwork.com. Please rate this show 5 stars on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, or anywhere you get your podcasts. Join us again soon for more Central Texas Life with Ann Harder. This has been a Rogue Media Network production.